Hey everyone, I'll call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock on Monday evening, April 6th, 2026. This meeting is being recorded. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have 18 items on this evening's agenda, and I will ask the city clerk to please read agenda item number 1.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, March 23rd, 2026.
Mr. President,
Councilor Vital.
I'd like to make a motion to accept and place on file.
Motion's made and seconded to accept and place on file the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The minutes are filed, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 2.
Now it's the time for the public hearing on the petition of Comcast to install new underground conduit system on Onamog Street, American Way, and Fairmount Street to service Comcast facility that is under construction at 112 Onamog Street, order number 26-100, 9704. In addition, we have a communication from City Engineer Thomas DePercio with recommended conditions for the petition.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in 4 stages. First, with the public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And 4, questions from the city councilors. I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Mark Beaudry. I'm a professional engineer here in Massachusetts. I am with Civil Works New England. And with me this evening is Jim Page of the Comcast Network Engineering and Construction Group, as well as Ed Woods, who's with Comcast Critical Infrastructure. And Jim can speak to any questions the council might have related to specific, the fiber optic, fiber conduit and whatnot, where Ed is here to speak relative to any questions the council might have on the building project that's going on that will be connected. It's called the head-end facility that will be connected to this new fiber conduit. So I would like to just, quickly go over with the council just the nature of the project and what it involves. So first of all, it's a little bit older version of the plan that we use for initial planning purposes, but I thought it was good for showing the overall scope of the project. And the new the head-end facility that's, you may be aware, is under construction on Onamog Street is right here, which is across the street from the water tower up on top of the hill. And then what's involved is, Comcast likes to do redundant fiber line, which is basically supporting their broadband, infrastructure for internet access and things like that. 911 service, whatever. It serves a lot of purposes to the city and in area. And so what they would like to do is connect ideally to a couple different locations that are to provide redundancy, but also go underground, where in the old days everything would be aerially on poles and whatnot, but now because they'd like to have this infrastructure better protected and installing it underground. So what they do is construct, call them duct banks that are basically, PVC conduit, 4-inch diameter, that are concrete encased and buried below the ground, not very deep, maybe about 2 feet down to the top of the ductwork, so they can work well with other infrastructure that's in the streets and whatnot. So what we were asked to do, in coordinating closely with the city engineer's office, was to, where possible, to put the duct bank locations just off the edge of pavement, still in the right-of-way, but not actually underneath the pavement. And one of the reasons that in this case, there was a lot of new, as you may be aware, gas lines installed recently in the streets up here. So just to, ideally get them off the road a little bit, but still within the public way, not on private property. And so firstly, coming out of the new head-end facility, we're proposing to run underground a 4 duct bank, 2/2, that would be concrete encased, and this graphic just shows it out in the street, but again, it's off the pavement, but it'll run down the east side of Onamog Street to the intersection with American Way. And at that point, there will be a precast concrete manhole underground, like electric manhole you might be familiar with. And then the conduit will make a turn and will continue down American Way to the east, about 230 feet, to the intersection with Fairmount Street. And at that point, there'll be another manhole structure. And again, it's still 2x2 for 4 total, but then it's going to come out of that manhole and split and run to 2 different poles. Pole number 15 and then pole number 14-50, which are represented by the blue dots on Fairmount. And then it'll go by risers with 2 4-inch conduit and run up the pole to connect to the aerial infrastructure on the poles currently. So that would be the one connection out to the Fairmount area. Another connection that's going to be proposed would be to come out of the new building, underground, and run across Onamog Street in the direction of the water tower, about 40 feet across the road, and then run down the roadside area to roughly here, where the existing overhead pole line is that you might be familiar with. And then it's going to, Comcast actually has an existing vault in that area that's going to be replaced with a manhole. And then it'll turn and run towards the first pole that's next to the water tank. So that'll be a way of getting some more redundancy. And then actually in this case, we're going to have a third connection, which will run out the back of the building to an existing pole right here that is basically has an existing Comcast fiber line overhead to that pole. So that you should actually feed the building that used to be on this property that was a little hard to see. It was about the size of a shipping container maybe, with that was surrounded by a lot of overgrown brush and everything else. So it was a little hard to see, but this is going to be a much better looking building when all is said and done. So as I said, all this new infrastructure, other than the runs up the poles, are going to be underground. And one thing that we did work closely with engineering on was to integrate it with the gas lines that were recently installed in the street. So we got those plans from Eversource and got those added to the plan, made some adjustments. And I should point out that after talking with engineering, we ended up putting the conduit run in American Way just on the edge of pavement, because on the off-slope area on the south side of American Way is a pretty steep slope and a lot of mature trees and things like that we didn't want to disturb. So in that case, we'll be just in the into the pavement, which was acceptable to the city engineer. So anyway, that's we in addition to the Steve, if you could go to the plan real quick. Yep. So this is our site plan that we prepared. And again, this shows all the conduit runs in much more detail with the manholes, the 4-inch pipes running down American Way, the connections to the poles, the run, as you can see, just off the pavement edge in down Onamog Street, and then the run over to the pole line over there. So that's the site plan we put together. And if you're really into engineering details, the next page just has all the details showing various cross-sections of the duct banks and everything. So that was part of our the package that we submitted. And again, we work closely with engineering, and I believe they don't really have any comments per se, since we had essentially addressed everything they were looking for. And I think one comment was to get a street opening permit, which is, absolutely. That's so I think that's it. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer, or if anything more specific to Comcast, Jim or Ed can address those. So thank you very much for your attention to this.
Thank you, Mark. Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any members of the public speak in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any questions from the public? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Bob Broxton, B-R-O-X-T-O-N. I reside at 79 Onamog Street. I do have a couple of questions. I would expect that at some point there'd be some interruption of internet service while this is being done.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. If
Will there be an interruption of service at some point during this, and if so, for how long?
that's a good, Jim, thoughts on that?
Jim Page, network engineer at Comcast. No, there will not be. Eventually, we will be bringing services into the building that will serve the city of Marlborough. But that work is done within our maintenance window from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. And that probably won't happen for another year before we're actually
So they'll be
building that
working out
plant.
there 1 a.m. to 6 a.m.?
No, so the lines will all be pulled in
Okay.
during the day. The cutovers happen further down out into the system at certain intercept points within the city.
Okay, the other question, I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment, it deals more with the current construction going on with the new building. Trucks coming up there, pretty big loads of aggregate, sand, everything else, and the barriers that they formed into, looks like a foundation. The road is taking a beating up there right now because of that. A particular, if someone's up there, they could take a look at what's going on with the street, the pavement in front of 97 Onamog. When they did the road work and the work for Eversource last year, we ended up with a patchwork from Onamog down to the end of Fairmont Street. So you've got half a road that's nicely paved, and the other half is, it's been there for however long it is, and the potholes have gotten worse with the trucks. I mean, they're big, heavy trucks, and the road really isn't built to take those. So if there's any kind of remediation can be done to that, that'd be great. Other than that, I have no objection to the project. I just had questions.
My understanding, to address, I believe, some of your concerns was that as part of this project, we were not required to actually do the paving on Onamog Street because I think the city actually is planning on repaving the road. So that was my understanding. So we,
So Mark, I'll interrupt you. So Claude, we'll check with the engineering, but I believe because they put the gas lines in recently, there is a plan to fix the road or repave the road, but they wanted to make sure the underground
Yeah,
work.
there's
for the
no sense
comp-
doing it before the work's done.
That's very good.
Okay, well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude.
yeah, and a lot of the, heavy hauling that's been going to the site for the, the precast units for the retaining wall or whatnot, a lot of that work is substantially complete, so that's going to be winding down soon.
Yeah, you
It's
can
not
see it's
done yet,
almost
but,
done.
yeah.
Thank you, Claude. Any other members of the public have questions? Any other members of the public have questions? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just a couple of questions as far as logistics and construction. Are you doing vertical drilling, or are you just going to do trenching down to do?
It'll be trenching, open cut trenching, yep,
Okay.
no.
How far down you going?
The duck banks are, we have a detail, Steve, if you could put that up. Yeah, there we go. So to the top of the conduit is about 24 inches, and then you've got 4 inches, maybe 3 inches, and another, 4 to 6 underneath. So the bottom of the, you might be looking at, maybe at the most, 3.5 feet down to the
Okay.
bottom of the
Okay, so
of the
you're actually
concrete
above the frost
encasement.
line. You're above the frost line.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And in the picture to the far right, showing the 4 conduits, that's basically poured concrete surrounding them?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that, appreciate it.
You're welcome. And so, but it's shallow enough that it can span over a lot of the, most other utilities and whatnot, so. And we'll coordinate closely with gas and whatnot that was installed, so. Yep.
Thank you,
These
Councilor
are
Doucette.
some of the details on the manholes, by the way.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other questions from the city councilors? Councilor Preciado.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for being here. I'm just curious about the timeline for this project, and if it's going to be in stages throughout down the street, or are you going to try and do it all in one go?
Yeah, gentlemen, you want to talk to the, I think, if you're interested more in the building construction schedule, Ed can speak to that. Jim can talk to the fiber work.
Thank you.
Construction, yeah. So, yeah, it will all be done at the same time. What we're waiting for is, if you can mind shifting to the other plan, there's going to be some vaults installed on the property, and we're going to come off of those with the duct bank. So once those are placed, then we'll schedule the actual trenching, which I would take maybe a week and a half.
Gotcha. And those new proposed utility poles, are they for future service, or?
They're for both power and for the fiber service, so. Eversource had required them, and we're utilizing them as well.
Thank you. I guess one final question. What is the timeline on the construction of the building? Since you're up there.
The timing the construction of the building?
Yeah, right now it's under construction, I'm doing up here.
You got to come up and state your name, and that's okay. And use the microphone.
Ed Woods with Comcast. Right now, the wall is under construction, and we're looking to get foundations in the next month, and the building is due to arrive between the end of May and June. And the building is coming in sections. It's a precast building. It'll come in, I believe, they said like 8 sections.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Overall schedule for the site?
Looking to be complete with the overall site probably around October in that area.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Preciado. Any other questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Any questions from the councilors? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mark, Jim, Ed, thank you for the presentation, and Mr. Broxton, thank you for those questions. We'll make sure to keep an eye on this one. With that, it was mentioned that the city engineer has been in touch with the petitioner about this project over the last few months, and with that, move to approve with the conditions submitted by the city engineer.
Motion made and seconded to approve the petition with the conditions identified by the city engineer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Petition is approved. The vote is 10-0. Thank you,
Thank you
Mark.
very much. Have a great night.
Agenda item number 3.
Now's the time for the public hearing on a petition of Mass Electric and Verizon to install one joint-owned pole on Cimarano Drive, beginning at a point approximately 45 feet north of the center line of the intersection of 4th Street and Bluebell Lane. National Grid is proposing to install a new pole on Cimarano Drive labeled P3550, order number 26-1009702. And in addition, communication from the city engineer indicating clarification is needed prior to making recommendations on this petition.
Okay, the public hearing will be taken up at the same 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, questions from the public speaking in opposition, then questions from the city council. So I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is John Rupia. I'm an engineer from National Grid, from the Hopedale Bureau. I'm here to answer any question about the petition which you're requesting for for mid-stem pole on Pleasant Street.
Not Pleasant, this is the Cimarano one. So I understand the Cimarano project needs
Yeah, it
some
was
more
canceled.
information, so we're going to continue the public hearing?
Right.
You okay? So
That'll be
Councilor
next.
Ficillo?
Thank you, Mr. President. As it was indicated, right, we need some additional information on this one, so move to extend the public hearing to our April 27th meeting.
So continue, so motion made and
To
seconded,
continue the
continue the public hearing till our April 27th meeting. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? The public hearing for the Cimarano petition will be extended to April 27th, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 4.
Now's the time for the public hearing on the petition of Mass Electric and Verizon to install one joint-owned pole on Pleasant Street, beginning at a point approximately 120 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Chestnut Street and Lincoln Street. National Grid is proposing to install a new 50-foot Class H1 mid-span pole between pole 11 and pole 12 on Pleasant Street. The pole is to be located on city property, labeled P1150, order number 26-100, 9703. And in addition, we have recommended conditions from the city engineer for this petition.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in the same 4 steps. First, public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And 4, questions from the city council. So I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is John Rupier, from 246 Mount Hops, South Main Street in Hopedale. And I'm here to answer any questions about the petition we're proposing.
Do you have any details on the
Yes, that pole is, the one we're going to install is going to be between pole 11 and pole 12 on Pleasant Street. And basically that pole will be called pole 11-50. And that pole will be carrying an equipment called recloser. It's a huge equipment. And that's the reason why the pole is going to be pretty tall, around 5 feet. And it's going to be to carry the equipment.
There's heavy equipment on top of the pole?
Yeah,
or-
it's recloser.
Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city council? Questions from the city council? Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one quick question. Thank you, John, for being here. All right, so the 2 poles that are already existing, they're 80 feet apart. So just can you explain one more time, just what is the purpose of this additional pole, considering that the 2 existing are already in such close proximity?
The span is a little longer.
Okay.
And because of the New England weather, we're trying to avoid any slag on the, it depends on the weather, especially winter time.
Sure.
That's why we put the mid-stem pole, so we can have a little steady cables.
Thank you, John. So just to tighten things up. Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Right.
Any other questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Any questions from the city councilors? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve with the conditions submitted by the city engineer.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the petition with the conditions submitted by the city engineer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The petition is approved and the vote is 10-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5.
Now it's time for the public hearing on the proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650 zoning, Section 33, the Results Way Mixed-Use Overlay District, Order Number 26-100, 9683.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in the same 4 stages. First, with the public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And finally, questions from the city council. So I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor. Please, starting with the applicant, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Terry McEachran. Thank you. I am with Greatland Realty Partners, and we are the owners of the campus at Marlborough. I'm joined this evening by Kevin Sheehan, who's one of the co-founders of Greatland, and Paul Momney, who is our zoning attorney with Goulston & Storrs. So to the extent I get really, really hard questions, we're going in that back corner. And we're in front of you this evening to discuss a zoning amendment we've put in front of the City Council to raise the residential cap of the existing Results Way mixed-use overlay district that currently governs the campus from 100 units to 400 units. So I'm going to start with a brief overview.
Point it towards here, that's right.
Sorry, you told me that and I forgot. I'm going to start with a brief overview on the campus, and then we'll talk a little bit about the history of the site. So it was originally developed by the first occupier, so a company called 3Com. They completed a master plan for this whole parcel and built about half of it. So it was originally master planned for a little over 1 million square feet, and what exists today is about 530,000 square feet of these 4 buildings. We'll talk a little bit about the leasing, but just generally speaking, this back building is occupied by a women's health company called Hologic. The corporate headquarters for BJ's is in this building. It spills into the bottom of this building. The rest of this building is multi-tenanted, the mix of uses, and then this center building is an amenity building. And then as part of the BJ's transaction, we actually built this parking garage in the last few years. So kind of jumping to sort of sponsorship execution here. So Greatland bought the property at the very end of 2020. I want to say it was a little less than 50% lease with some long-term tenancy, mostly Hologic. Shortly thereafter, we executed the roughly 200,000 square foot headquarters lease with BJ's, bringing them from Westboro to Marlboro. A few years later, in 2024, we did an extension with Hologic, who had been a long-term occupier of the campus, for an additional 10 years. And then coming into the tail end of 2025, we responded to an RFP put forth by the state of Massachusetts and DCAM to build the new Massachusetts State Crime Lab, so in conjunction with Marlboro City officials, and we're successful in that pursuit. And so just in the last couple weeks, we've broken ground on the Massachusetts State Crime Lab at the campus of Marlboro, and I'll show you on the site plan exactly where that is located. So all of that is a long way of saying that this is a very important asset to us since we bought it. It's an important part of our portfolio, and it's an incredibly strong tenancy. We're excited to add the state of Massachusetts to that list, and we will continue to kind of manage and operate the campus with the same level of high execution for all the future phases of development that we're going to talk about. So kind of going back, this is a little more granular on the specific zoning for the campus at Marlboro. In 2021, right after we bought the property, we went through a process to expand the Results Way mixed-use overlay district to extend over the campus. And as part of that, that included a residential cap of 100 units. And the sort of way this site is governed through the zoning process, the next step of that is to go through a development agreement and a master plan. And ultimately, that master plan had a mix of residential and biomanufacturing uses, and given some market factors, we actually withdrew the master plan and the development agreement. So we did complete the zoning. So the zoning is in place today with a 100-unit cap, but we never executed the development agreement or the master plan. So if you fast forward 5 years, we've now won the State Crime Lab, which sort of delivers that first 200,000 square feet of additional commercial to the campus. And we're now back looking at the master plan holistically and figuring out what the additional development rights on the site should be given current market conditions. And as part of that, we're looking to raise that cap from 100 to 400 units, and along with some additional commercial on the site. So. This is just really quick. I've touched on it a few times, but I want to make sure everyone understands that the campus is a little unique in how it operates, and so this is the first step in a 3-step process. So we'll be back in front of the city council 2 more times as part of this. So this is just related to the zoning amendment. Then we'll be back for a master plan and a development agreement. Typically, hopefully we'll do those together in parallel. And then we'll be back for our 3rd phase, which will be the site plan for each individual building that'll get built, which again is just a way of saying that there might be some specific or nuanced questions that are just, I can't answer at this phase, but we'll do my best. But those might be things that get answered as we move through the development agreement. So starting with the master plan, again, this is the same angle of the campus that we looked at in that first slide. So you have the existing buildings, the existing parking garage, and a fair amount of surface parking. This is what exists on the campus today. So moving to the first phase, which is the Massachusetts State Crime Lab. I'm sure most people are familiar with the campus in one way or another. There is a significant amount of topography on the site. So where this crime lab is located is sort of at the same elevation of Cimarano, and the campus is kind of up the hill a little bit from the crime lab, so they are slightly separated. As part of the second phase, we're now introducing the residential to the campus. And so we're looking at about 300 of sort of traditional mid-rise residential buildings on that back parking lot. Again, because there's a lot of topography on the site, this is where the site is the flattest, lending itself to the development. The next phase, we're showing what I would call more like direct entry or townhome product. This would be roughly 100 units. Again, we're only looking to raise the cap. We're not necessarily splitting this between phases or product type at this point, but just to give you a sense of what our draft master plan looks like today. And then the final phase, if I can get there, would be an additional 200,000 square feet of commercial. Once we get to this final phase, we do have to build a parking garage. The previous residential is all surface parked. There's no additional parking structures required. And again, this could be office or lab or a mix of both, but would require most likely some sort of a tenant commitment to kick it off, similar to how we pursued the crime lab. And this next slide is just the full build out of the master plan, kind of recognizing the full potential of the site. So talking about specific site advantages, really the biggest thing here being the mix of uses. So the commercial with the residential, those are complementary uses. They kind of strengthen the campus. They have similar amenity packages that go with each, and their stronger tenant appeal kind of brings the whole campus to life. You don't have a down hour where the campus is mostly empty, the residential is full. The residential is mostly empty, the campus is full. And so from a parking and an infrastructure standpoint, those things work really well together. And then from a surrounding standpoint, if you think back to the master plan, there is a lot of green shown on that plan. The campus really is its own little island. There's not a ton of single-family residential around it. This will not be a visible project, either from the main road or to its neighbors. But if you do zoom out a little bit and look at what the closest residential use is, it's the Avalon development right across the street, which is a very similar product type in terms of the townhomes and the mid-rise. And so when you think about kind of just like, what is the fabric of the neighborhood? These are not single families. This is already a high density area situated next to commercial. This kind of works with what the neighborhood is. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, the original development was always planned to have 1 million square feet. So the utilities are there, you have the highway proximity, all of that. Jumping to traffic, this is typically a question. With the inclusion of the residential, moving from an all commercial plan to a portion of that being residential is actually a net improvement from a traffic standpoint, specifically on peak hours of travel. So if you think of just normal travel patterns to and from your home, you're not dumping 1,000 plus employees or more than that, onto the campus at one time and having them leave at the same time. This is a mix of uses. It actually improves the baseline by about 1,500 trips daily. From an economic standpoint, this full build out of the master plan is projected to bring about 1.6 million net new taxes to the city of Marlborough at full build out. That actually does not include the crime lab. So the crime lab is in addition to that. The crime lab is nuanced because it has a TIF from the city of Marlborough, and so the taxes start low, but they get really big. So they kind of are backloaded there. There's also the additional of 3.35 in additional building permits at full build out. So those will be fees paid to the city. And then just from an estimating standpoint, this assumption assumes no increase to the residential or commercial tax rates as they stand today compared to full build out 6 years from now. So again, this is probably on the conservative side. And that gives you a sense of the full build out as kind of an axiom image. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. I just want to reiterate that this is an asset we're very proud of, and we are excited about the potential to continue to develop here and do work in the city of Marlborough.
Thank you, Terry. Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any members of the public speak in favor? Any members of the public speak in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any questions from the public?
Hi, Mike Castaselli, 190 Beach Street. Does the campus constitute the entirety of the district? The what's it called?
Results Way.
Results Way district?
Yes. Yep.
It does, it's the entirety
Yep. Of the sub-district.
of the what?
Attorney Momney is correcting me here, so I might let him answer this. It's of the sub-district.
So Mike, there's two parts. There's the one, there's the Results Way Mixed-Use Overlay District is in two parts. The one where Avalon and Quest is, that's Sub-District 1.
Okay.
And where the campus project is Sub-District 2. So I just want to make sure you're getting the answer that you're looking for, Mike.
Yeah, and 2 is the one we're talking about, and that, the campus is the entirety of
Correct.
that second district, number 2?
Yep.
Okay. And you said 1,500 trips a day, new trips?
Reduction from the full build-out. So the site is currently permitted for a full 1 million square feet of commercial development. That was how the original permitting works, 1 million plus. We're now introducing residential, right? And so with that introduction of residential, it's actually a net reduction on the full build-out of traffic to the site of 1,500 a day.
Okay. And so, was your group responsible for getting the original 100 approved? 100 units?
The original 100 of residential, yes. Yep,
Okay.
that was us.
And so you're upgrading to, you want to upgrade to 400? basically.
Correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any other members of the public with questions?
My name's Pete Sharon, 95 Lakeshore Drive in Marlboro. I just had a couple questions. One was, how many employees do you plan to have on that campus?
How many employees? I don't know what the existing count is, probably close to 1,000, but the crime lab is projected to bring in another 300. And then the residential will have support staff of some sort. And then the final phase of commercial could be an additional 500, 300, somewhere in that range.
The townhouses that you mentioned, are those rentals or are those owned?
We haven't designated yet, so they could be either at this point. My expectation is they're most likely rentals, but that will be sort of governed at the time we go to develop them, what the market and sort of what Marlboro is looking, what needs from a supply standpoint, what would get absorbed.
So what's driving the change from 100 to 400?
It's a great question. So the original master plan we had in front of the city included a significant amount of biomanufacturing space, and then the residential is a supporting use to that. I'll just say candidly, the biomanufacturing has not tended to stay in the state of Massachusetts. It's elected to go to other places. That's not a great use for the campus anymore. And so now we're sort of updating that to see what is the best mix of uses. So now that we've introduced the commercial with the crime lab, we have a final phase of commercial. Eventually the residential is a good addition to that kind of mix of uses, creating that ecosystem.
At this stage of your planning, I don't know if you'll have this answer, but are you planning more, on the residential, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms?
It'll be a mix. It'll be a mix.
Because the concern would be obviously a lot more children, a lot more kids in the public school system.
So as part of the zoning amendment, we did include a draft fiscal impact study. And the gentleman who did the fiscal impact study did do a projection of what he thinks, how many school-age children this could introduce at full build-out. And I think in that, he said 23 was the number he had.
23?
Mm-hmm. Based on, that is based on actual data from other developments that have happened in Marlboro and what they have introduced into the school system.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter. Any other members of the public with questions? Any members of the public with questions? Any members of the public with questions? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Public speaking in opposition. Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors. Councilor Navin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Terry, thank you for the presentation. That $1.6 million in tax revenue is obviously a good-looking number for those of us sitting around here. That's a full build-out that includes that extra $200,000 of commercial. Do you have it broken out?
It is in the fiscal impact study, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that
Do you have it
in
up
front of me.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
But it is in the zoning amendment. Attorney Momney's going to grab it for us.
You got to come on
So
up.
for the housing, the number for tax revenue for the housing, and if you have it broken down by the townhome, by the different phases, the townhomes and the 300.
Yep. It's definitely in there. Okay. Yeah. So we are about 1.3 on the apartment taxes. That's actually not divided out between the 300 and the 100, but 1.3 for the residential, and then about 675,000 on the second phase of commercial.
So
It's
that
net.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we backed out any obligation of the city on with this new development, so things like police, fire, all of those good things, we backed that out. So the 1.6 is a true net benefit. The total tax gross would be about 2 million.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Navin. Questions from the city councilors? Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, Terry. One of our guests actually asked some of the questions I had on the bedroom count. I'd be more interested now in seeing down the road what your projection is for the townhouses. Are they 2 bedrooms? Are they 1 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms or whatever?
Okay.
Very, very concerned that we're trying to keep commercial industrial over on that side of 495, and that was the original intent of this campus. The reason for it, obviously, as we all know as city councilors, it brings in better tax revenue because we don't have to predict or project students and resources, not just for the schools, but as you said, you backed out the police, the fire. I don't know if you backed out the schools. And there's no guarantee. Unless they're over 55 units, then there might be a better guarantee, but there's no guarantee if those 23 students you mentioned may be the number. You know, if things change, as obviously the campus has changed. I appreciate your explanation on why you decided to choose to go more residential than commercial. I personally prefer it to be commercial industrial. I understand traffic may be offset, but that was the original intent of that side of Marlboro, to draw in commercial industrial because they're near the highway. You know, I'm going to have to take a close look at this as I do with housing, because we're really getting hit in the city, not just with your project, but others as well. And I'm very concerned about the additional needs for our police, fire, DPW, I'll mention them as well, in schools. So thank you. But as you continue to present, I'd really like to see a projection of bedroom count in each unit you're proposing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If I could,
Yeah, go
so
right
just, remember, this is a zoning change.
I know,
Those details
I know.
will come out, and if, should the zoning change be approved,
Yep.
they'll come out in the special permit section, so.
If they have an idea now, that would be nice, but if they don't, I understand. I see it right in front of me as a zoning proposal, but I'm projecting to the future on this request for the zoning. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Terry.
Any other questions for the city councilors? Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Can you get back to the last picture of the build-out, final build-out? So the townhouses are on the bottom, right?
Yep.
And the apartments, are those apartments?
Correct. Yep.
How many apartment units?
300, and this is 100 estimated.
Okay, so 100 townhouses and then 300 apartments?
Yep,
in
exactly.
that. Okay. Okay, I just wanted that clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other questions for the city councilors? Councilor Roby?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes because I think I need to make a point that was raised by Karen. I did a little history. So back in June of 2021 was when the City Council, with the favorable recommendation from the Planning Board, approved the zoning amendment to include the property west of Cimarano into the Results Way Mixed-Use Overlay District, with two separate sub-districts, now A and B, or 1 and 2. I think they're called A and B in the actual zoning, which, if somebody wants to look it up in the code, is 650-33. I actually voted against this zoning when it was proposed. Myself and then Councilor Perlman were the two opposed to the zoning. My sense was that I was objecting to throwing this part of the city into an existing overlay and felt like they needed to create their own. However, it passed and we moved forward. Part of the language, as was discussed, was a master concept plan and a development agreement, which actually did come to the council on September 27th, 2021. The master concept plan showed those 100 units of housing where the crime lab is now. And on the December 6th council agenda, it appeared as unfinished business. The council had been having discussions with regarding the number of multifamily housing it had approved, and we did have a housing moratorium at that time. There was concern from Mayor Vigent regarding the development agreement and housing versus it being in a special permit. The solicitor made changes, and unfortunately, those changes and the solicitor's recommendation were not on the agenda. A request to suspend the rules didn't carry, so it was on the December 20th, 2021 agenda, where it was referred back to Urban Affairs and then sat with nothing happening. So we did try to go through the process, but we kind of dropped the ball because of arguments about have we built too much with the moratorium in place. I will make a point because I think there may be some misunderstanding from a comment made by the president. In the zoning, under eligible uses by right, are 300 dwelling units in subdistrict 1 and currently 100 in subdistrict 2. That's by right. So I will go back to the slide that showed 3 steps: zoning amendment, master plan, and site plan. There will be no special permits for these buildings because we put it in the code. If you have a problem with that, then don't increase it or look to change the zoning to actually say they only get 100 because there is in the code by special permit in subdistrict 1 to go more than 350 units. So that's the current code. We will certainly take this up. The planning board has their public hearing, I think, at their next meeting on the 27th. So once they have their public hearing and get their recommendation to us, we can take this up in Urban Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Any other questions or comments from the councilors? Questions or comments from the councilors? Question or comments from the councilors? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. As Councilor Roby stated, this is in Urban Affairs. Terry, thank you very much. When you're ready. Agenda item number 6.
Communication from the mayor regarding grant acceptance in the amount of $20,876.41 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, and the Department of Fire Services, awarded to the fire department to be used to purchase fire safety gear and equipment.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve the grant, please.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the grant. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The grant is approved and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 7.
Communication from the mayor regarding grant acceptance in the amount of $200,000 as part of the state budget earmark funding awarded to the city of Marlborough to be used for the rehabilitation of the Women's Veterans Park and continued operation of the local commuter shuttle.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve the grant, please.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the grant. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The grant is approved and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 8.
Communication from the mayor regarding transfer request in the amount of $807,524, from economic development to MEDC funding for the fiscal year 2027 operating budget of MEDC, and a transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from economic development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox.
Counselor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to the Finance Committee, please.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's going to Finance, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 9.
Communication from the mayor regarding proposed job description pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 5, Preparation of Classification Descriptions, relative to the position of Assistant Fire Chief.
Councilor Orem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to the Personnel Committee.
Motion's made and seconded to refer to the Personnel Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's going to Personnel, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 10.
Communication from the mayor regarding the notification of temporary appointment pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 61A, of Brian Doheny as an interim city collector effective March 24th, 2026, for a 60-day term to expire May 23rd, 2026.
Councilor Orem.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Two things, on the computer and on the, oops, sorry.
Accept and place on file.
Yeah, no, the temporary appointment, yes, accept and place on file. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Motion's made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication from the mayor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. It's filed, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 11.
Communication from Assabet Valley Regional Vocational School District regarding the fiscal year 2027 approved budget for the school district.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file the communication, please.
Motion's made and seconded to file the communication. I will point out of information for those that have read it. That is a $1.5 million increase to the Assabet Valley budget, 17.5% that we have no say in.
Correct, Mr. President.
On the motion to accept and place on file, Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. President. One additional thing that I did read it, and they have a significant increase in the number of students that are being referred from Marlboro down to Assabet. So to address the issue that Councilor Orem was talking earlier, the increases are actually, at least at the high school level, are going down in the public school system and going to Assabet. That's all. Thank you, Mr. President.
We won't debate it here, but the additional of 50 some odd students does not equate to an increase of $1.5 million. Read the details on that report. It's a little, if we got a report like this from our school, our hair would be, those of us that have it, our hair would be on fire. Just saying. On the motion to accept and place on file, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's filed, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item number 12.
Petition from Light Path Fiber Infrastructure LLC to install approximately 665 feet of 1 to 4 inch SCH PVC communications conduit from existing pole 63 on Forest Street to pole 59 with one 24 by 30 inch handhole near the entrance to 753 Forest Street. In addition, to place 490 feet of 1 to 4 inch SCH PVC communications conduit from pole 58 on Forest Street to pole 55 with one 24 by 30 inch handhole near the entrance to 669 Forest Street.
Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to set a date for public hearing on April 27th.
Motion made and seconded to set and send it to the city engineer.
And to refer to the city engineer.
Motion made and seconded to set the public hearing for April 27th and refer to the city engineer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. It's going to the city engineer with a public hearing of April 27th, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item 13.
Request from the communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding proposed license to encroach for Welly's Restaurant, Inc., 153 Main Street, proper legal form, a request for suspension of the rules to accept the communication.
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and place on file the communication and to refer this to reports of committee.
Motion is made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication and refer to reports of committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The item carries. It's being filed and moved down to reports of committee. Vote is 10-0. Agenda item 14.
Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees.
Mr. President?
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you much, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file the minutes.
Motion is made and seconded to accept and place on file the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The minutes are filed and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item 15.
Claims.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to send the claims to the legal department.
Motion made and seconded to send the claims to the legal department. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Claims are going to legal and the vote is 10-0. Reports of committees. Who would like to go first? Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The City Council Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee met on April 2nd, 2026. We convened at 6:31 with one item on the agenda. That would be order number 26-100-9706. Communication from Wemerson Vieira on behalf of Welly's Restaurant, Inc. regarding a request to extend the use of outdoor seating. Appearing on behalf of Welly's Restaurant was Wemerson Vieira, who explained the outdoor seating was a huge part of the restaurant's success. The chair read a letter into the record from the council president, who was unable to attend the meeting. His letter provided some history of outdoor dining on Main Street and encouraged the Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee to support this request. The chair noted they received many letters of support from local businesses downtown and the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. Councilor Orm discussed with the applicants the safety of the seating from traffic and with the presidents of the bollards and planters. They also keep a walkway clearance of at least 5 feet for pedestrian and wheelchair access. On discussion of the motion, Councilor Orm requested that an amendment to Councilor Roby's motion that the sidewalk area be kept open a minimum of 5 foot width. Councilor Roby stated that there was already language in the city code. Councilor Orm requested an amendment for the flower boxes being placed for safety reasons. Councilor Roby was open to the amendment if the city solicitor felt them necessary when it was placed in proper legal form from the chair, and then the chair cautioned about including any requirements that would conflict with ADA requirements. On a motion by Councilor Roby, seconded by the chair, the committee recommended the approval of the request by Welly's Restaurant, Inc. to extend the use of outdoor seating. We will be asking for a suspension this evening to take this up.
Been a request for suspension of the rules. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? Suspension carries 10-0. Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve the use of outdoor seating.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the recommendation of the committee as outlined with the solicitor's license to encroach. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did just want to note something that we discussed in committee, mentioned by myself and some of the other members. This is something that we're very excited about. Obviously, councils in the past took up the work of creating this use for businesses on Main Street to have access to some of the public sidewalk to kind of entice people to get out and walk downtown. I think Welly's is probably the most apparent use, the business that has probably taken the most advantage of this opportunity. It was noted in committee, and I think it's noted by people when they talk to us when we're out on the street, that this is a use that all businesses that are on Main Street have access to, and we would encourage them to do so. This is what we talk about when we talk about wanting to get people out. We want to get people downtown. We want to revitalize our business opportunities for small local businesses and for people to have places to go when the weather warms up. So this is an opportunity for one particular business, but just want to make sure that people know that we encourage all businesses to take advantage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Navin. On the motion to approve the license to encroach, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The license is approved and the vote is 10-0. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. The City Council Urban Affairs and Housing Committee met on April 2nd. We had a new member with us at that meeting who was introduced. Councilor Frachillo is filling in while Councilor Sargent is absent from our meetings. So I appreciate his willingness to serve. The committee members were introduced. We took up order number 25-109-664 first, the application for a special permit from Attorney Falk on behalf of Marlborough Northborough Land Trust to build and operate 2 multifamily dwellings with a total of 90 residential units, accessory parking, resident amenities, landscape areas, and open space areas to be located at the corner of Ames and Forest Streets. Attorney Falk was present, as was Mr. Weiss from Gutierrez. Attorney Falk went through some of the information about the petition, and the chair began reading the comments from the department heads. She also read emails from Councilor Ossing and Gould speaking in favor of the special permit but absent from the meeting. Attorney Falk had sent an updated draft with the special permit taking in some of the comments from the department heads, and the chair began review of the draft document. In the discussion of the conditions under C8 green design, there was consensus to strike the words use best efforts to in the second sentence. Councilor Doucette moved to further amend the sentence that started with the applicant shall provide, striking contingent upon the utility company being able to commit to such service during the project's ordinary construction timeline, where it would read, the applicant shall provide all electric utilities. The motion was seconded but failed on a vote of 2-3, so the language remains as is. Under C9 mitigation funding, Attorney Falk had added in language for mitigation and used it to cover costs associated with the request from the city engineer DePercio to have the petitioner, quote, construct a new sidewalk to fill an existing gap on the east side of Ames Street, north of the site in the vicinity of 85 Ames, end quote. Councilor Ossing had suggested $100,000 in mitigation funds for the new Richer Elementary School. After discussion on mitigation for sidewalk, school, and fire station, Councilor Fricillo moved to amend C9 to provide payment in the total amount of $50,000 with 2 installments of $25,000 paid prior to the issuance of the building permit for each of the 2 buildings. Add a new section for Richer School Elementary funding with a total payment of $90,000 with $45,000 paid prior to the issuance of the building permit for each of the 2 buildings, and keep the fire station funding of $90,000 payable as stated. The motion was seconded and carried 5-0. Under C13 open space, Attorney Falk had added in this section, taking comments from Priscilla Ryder. He explained that the yellow highlight was new language and the strike-throughs were deleting language from Ms. Ryder that they felt didn't fit in with what the neighbors wanted regarding the trails, but still kept the management plan for the open space and the detention basin. Committee members made no changes. Councilor Doucette moved to recommend approval of the grant of special permit to Marlborough Northborough Realty Land Trust. It was seconded and carried 3-2. I would like to ask for a suspension, but before I do that, I do have a couple of points I would like to make, specifically regarding the C8 green design. During discussion, it was pointed out that the language in there was new to us. I went back and looked, as we were sort of suggested that we do, and found that on December 1st, 2025, when we approved the Lazat Drive special permit, it has number 8, green design. The applicant shall utilize best practices to design energy-efficient buildings and is encouraged to design buildings and accessory structures to accommodate accessory solar energy facilities and other technologies as feasible. The applicant shall use best efforts to provide all electric utilities, contingent upon the utility company being able to commit to such service during the project's ordinary construction timeline. In 2023, we approved 272 Lincoln Street, where there's nothing about green design. And also in 23, we approved 358, 364 Lincoln, where there is no green design. However, when we approved Alta Lincoln Street, they do have a green design, where they shall have all electric utilities, including heat, air conditioning, and hot water, and the applicant shall use best efforts to provide all electric utilities in the retail, commercial, and amenities portions. I also did talk to the building department because I was curious, and we can in fact approve a special permit for multifamily housing that does include, or that does allow them to have gas for their heating and air conditioning. The stretch code, which Marlborough has not, the specialized code, which Marlborough has not adopted, actually does have language in it that allows you to use gas, but you must also wire for electric. So there are options for people to still use gas. We are certainly trying to make sure that people do use all electric. And so the language that's in there has been used in the past, will probably continue to be used in the future, pushing all electric, but it will, as is stated, kind of depend on the ability to hook into the grid, especially for the larger projects. So I just wanted to make those points before, and then I would move to suspend the rules to allow this to go to the solicitor.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules, send to the solicitor. All those in favor of suspending and sending the solicitor? Motion carries. The vote is 10-0. Councilor Roby.
So move to refer this to the solicitor.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the solicitor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. It's going to the solicitor, and the vote is 10-0. Councilor
Thank
Roby.
you. All right, so continuing on, we also took up order number 26-100-9700, a communication from Code Enforcement Officer Ethan Lippert regarding a request for approval of a canopy flat wall sign, 57 Main Street within the downtown business district. And order number, I'll take them up one at a time. I think that's probably easier. The chair read through the communication from Code Enforcement Officer Ethan Lippert for order number 26-100-9700, showing compliance with 526 signs, but not compliant with the language in the downtown business district, which prohibits internally illuminated signs. The chair also read a communication from City Solicitor Grossfield, confirming that interior illuminated signs are not allowed on the facade exterior in downtown business district, but that the applicant could ask for a variance from the planning board if they really wanted the sign interior illuminated. Councilor Navin moved to recommend approval of order number 26-100-9700, a canopy flat wall sign, as submitted, but with no interior illumination. It was seconded, and the motion carried 3-0 with Councilor Doucette abstaining. I will note that it was confirmed again by the solicitor that it is the planning board who gives variances for this particular canopy flat wall sign. And my hope is that the applicant will be happy with having it be not interior illuminated, but they can do whatever they want if we approve this. So I'm going to move to suspend the rules to approve the sign tonight.
Motion made and seconded for suspension of the rules. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? Suspension carries, and the vote is 10-0. Councilor Roby.
And then the second sign that we took up was order number 26-100-9701, a communication from Code Enforcement Officer Ethan Lippert regarding a request for approval of a blade sign at 57 Main Street within the Marlboro Village District. I forgot to read that Councilor Preciado had recused himself from the two sign orders, so I guess he needs to recuse. I don't know if he did recuse himself, but you did say 10-0, so it should probably be 9-0.
We'll change it to 9-0.
Sorry, I forgot to read the important part there, and you didn't.
You got the suspension, but we didn't do an approval.
Yes, there were two separate votes. Move to suspend and move to approve the sign.
So you asked for the suspension, but you didn't ask, I'm going to wait till you finish, but you asked for the suspension on the, which was the flat wall sign. So
But
now
I haven't yet, because I'm not finished on the blade sign, because then I got sidetracked with saying I forgot to have Councilor Preciado recuse himself. And he forgot to recuse himself.
But on the flat wall sign, you asked for the suspension to approve it, but you haven't asked for the motion to, the suspension was approved, but you didn't.
But I thought I did. I did too. All right, then I will stand corrected and move to approve as recommended for a flat wall sign that meets the code with no interior illumination.
Motion made and second to approve the flat wall sign that meets the code with no interior illumination. Everybody's good? Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So this specifically is for the canopy flat wall sign, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Roby, for doing the research as far as pointing out what was going on. My concern is basically who is having control of, the signs that go in Marlboro. Is it the council or is it someone else? Because we're supposedly in charge of everything. But in any case, I will be supporting this. I hope they find another creative avenue to get this thing done, because I actually thought it was a very elegant sign. And I think, again, the technology is moving at a pace faster than law when it comes to this type of stuff. So, anyway, thank you for that.
Council just said, if you want to take on the sign ordinance, you would be the hero in this city. Any further discussion on the motion to, Council Roby?
I will point out, we did point out the sign across the street at Welly's that is not internally illuminated, as well as the one on the bin as samples that they could look at to model after.
On the motion to approve the flat wall sign not internally illuminated as set up in the submittal. Any discussion? Everybody good? All those in favor? Opposed? It's approved 9-0 with one abstention. Councilor Roby.
All right, so as I said, we are continuing with order number 26-109-701 for the approval of a blade sign, also at 57 Main Street. So the chair read through the communication from Code Enforcement Officer Ethan Lippett for the blade sign showing non-compliance with Section 526 signs as it exceeds the square footage allowed, extends above the windowsill of the second story, which is not allowed, and is made of aluminum where signs shall be wood or have visual impression of being made of wood. The chair also read a communication from City Solicitor Grossfield. Councilor Navin moved to recommend approval of order number 26-109-701, a blade sign at 57 Main Street, provided that it complies with the sizing, placement, and material as outlined in the language of the Marlborough Village District. It was seconded and carried 4-0. Again, I'll ask for a suspension to add this to the agenda.
Motion's made and seconded to suspend the rules. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? Suspension carries 9-0 with one not here. Councilor Roby.
All right, thank you. I will move to move the recommendation of committee, which is to approve, but I will also apologize because as we got into this and got in further and further into this the discussion, I realized after, when Councilor Doucette was checking with the solicitor on what the council can actually do, in reading back through the communication from the solicitor, he states blade signs, special permit by city council to authorize exceeding dimensional limits materials, and sign permit approved by the city council. So in fact, for the blade sign only, we could have approved a special permit exceeding the dimensions. There was discussion at the meeting that it is suggested that we do not follow the rules often and allow exceptions that we put into the rules where we can, and that it's nice to have somebody do what is in the rules. So that's why the motion was made to approve so long as it met, and I am personally not in favor of, would not have been in favor of a special permit, but I wanted to make everybody aware, because if we have a sign permit coming for some other building downtown, I want to make sure that I do it correctly the next time, and I apologize for my error in misreading this. But at this point, I would move the recommendation of committee, which is to approve the blade sign provided it complies with the language of Marlborough Village District.
Motion made and seconded to approve the blade sign provided it follows the rules. Councilor Navin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, kudos to the chair for the amount of homework she did between the meeting on Thursday night and our meeting here tonight, and for making sure she had all her I's dotted and T's crossed. I am in agreement in regards to the blade sign. I've said it at some of our committee meetings, and I've said it at some of the council meetings when we start to get into the signs. And I echo the president's sentiments. Councilor just said, if you would like to get into the sign ordinance, you are more than welcome to. What a convoluted plan and ordinance it is. One of the reasons I feel so strongly about making sure that we try to follow this as much as possible is that it is about fairness and it is about equity to the business owners that have to go through this. And I don't want to get into a big thing tonight because we are at the end of the agenda, but it's important when new businesses come in that we do our best if it makes sense to hold them to the same standards that we are holding other businesses to. Because when one business had to order its sign and pay for its sign to have it in the way and the dimensions and then the placement that it has been required, and someone else comes in and gets to do something different, then they're left to say, well, geez, what did I do? And we could say, oh, well, you can go get a variance, or you can go get this, or you can go get that. And they said, well, great, well, I already spent $10,000 on my sign, and I don't really have that expense. So from a fairness and equity standpoint, I do try to keep that consistent. Obviously, there are extenuating circumstances, and we have acted in the past. I do also want to note that if this were to go back to committee, this would cause a further delay for the business. And as we had in conversations with them, they are really just looking more so than to argue over what the signs are made of and what they look like. They want to get the signs on the building. 57 Main Street is quickly coming to a place of substantial completion. And so they are looking to get those signs up as soon as possible. So I would support the chair's recommendation to move the recommendation to committee, and I'll be supporting it this evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve the blade sign as long as it follows the rules? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The blade sign is approved, and the vote is 9-0 with one abstention. Any other reports of committees? Councilor Roby. Motion is made and seconded to suspend the rules. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? Suspension carries. Votes 10-0. Councilor Roby.
And I didn't have my microphone on. I apologize to the people in the other room. So at the beginning of meetings of the Richer School Building Committee, it was decided to set up separate working group to meet and discuss details that would go to the full committee for information on a vote on what was appropriate. So I brought you a couple of reports on what's been happening. The project is currently in Module 4 of the MSBA's project scope, with 9 in total. Module 4 is schematic design, where the district develops a final design program and robust schematic design of sufficient detail to establish the scope, budget, and schedule for the project. Last week, the working group was presented with this information, and at the upcoming full building committee meeting this coming Thursday, there will be a vote of endorsement for the schematic design. The next step will be for the school committee to endorse the recommendation. That endorsement with all the paperwork will then go to MSBA Board of Directors for their consideration. Approval of this module is necessary before we can enter into the next step, Module 5, which is funding the project. During that module, the district will document the actual project, scope, budget, schedule, and MSBA's contribution. And once that goes to MSBA Board of Directors for their approval. If funding is approved by the council, a project funding agreement is done. So I wanted you to be aware of the school committee meeting on April 14th, where Vertex, the owner's project manager, and Lamoureux Pagano Associates, LPA, the architects, will make a presentation including slides of the building site, the building design, and some of the interior, as well as some funding estimates. There had been discussion on providing this information to the City Council, but it was decided that once we are in Module 5, there will be a more formal request of the Council for the funding via a bond, and a presentation will be given at that point. So you can listen live, or you can watch the recording of the April 14th meeting to hear where we are at the status. It's exciting at this point to see what the architects have come up with and their ability to change what can be shown on the visual so that you can really see what this building's going to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. She'll say exciting, I'll say expensive, so just be prepared. There's going to be a bond coming the council's way in the order of $168-ish million sometime in the next 2 months, about. So just be prepared that that's coming, and it'll probably go to committee and then get the presentation, but you can get a teaser if you watch the school committee meeting on April 14th. Any other reports of committees? Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public service announcement. Finance Committee will be meeting on April 13th, 2026, looking at 7 p.m. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else? Council Orem.
The Personnel Committee will meet after the Finance Committee. I don't want to set a time, but somewhere in that 8 to 8:30 time period.
Whoa.
Well, maybe if the Finance Committee moves fast, it will be
We'll work
sooner.
on that time, start time.
Okay. I don't want to push the Finance Committee chair. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Orem. Anyone else? Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many of you know, that Councilor Sergeant now has turned into Lieutenant Commander Sergeant. The Veterans community here in Marlborough will be losing a stoneman in many ways, whether it's the Veterans Council, whether it's the Veterans gravestones that are in all the cemeteries. There'll be a big void in our city when it comes to veterans and their affairs, with Councilor Sergeant going active duty. And I ask everyone here and everyone in the city of Marlborough to pray for, in this turbulent times, in this crazy world, to pray for Councilor Sergeant, Commander Sergeant, and all those who serve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Vital. Agenda item 16.
Order number 26-100, 9639A, proposed salary ordinance amendment pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 6, salary schedule relative to the position of city solicitor. Recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve, and the ordinance was properly advertised and the 10-day requirement has been met.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve, please.
Motion made and seconded to remove the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve the salary ordinance. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Salary ordinance is approved, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item 17.
Order number 26-100, 9640A, proposed salary ordinance amendment pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 6, salary schedule relative to the position of Assistant Fire Chief. Recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve. And again, this ordinance was properly advertised and the 10-day requirement has been met.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve, please.
Motion made and seconded to remove the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The salary ordinance for the Assistant Fire Chiefs is approved, and the vote is 10-0. Agenda item 18.
Order number 26-100, 9670, resolution from Councilor Vital regarding municipal budget. Recommendation of the Finance Committee is to withdraw.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file, please.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The item is filed, and the vote is 10-0. Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. There is no discussion. All those in favor of adjourning? Opposed? We are adjourned at, he turned the clock off. Gosh darn it. 9:22. We are adjourned at 9:22. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.